Hi, one of the things I'm always asked about is very pale foundations. So many girls are struggling to find foundations and concealers that are fair enough and pale enough for them. I think the problem is that most companies, especially the ones that sell self-service, so they have small stands on the high street, they only have a limited amount of colours that they're ever going to be able to fit on the stand. So maybe they have 8 shades or 6 shades. So market forces will dictate, and therefore the colours that sell the most are the ones that they'll have there. So often the more unusual tones, whether it be the very, very extremely pale or the darker ones or the very yellow ones or whatever, will be not included. So this film today is particularly for just the really, really, really pale skin girls. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I've got lots of suggestions of ones that I've used and I think are good. First one is the Dainty Doll range, and this is by Nicola Roberts, who is in Girls Aloud, and you can see how very, very pale this is. And I think what's good about the range is that she's extremely pale, and when they first started doing videos and working, she often describes how the makeup artist wouldn't have, foundations that were pale enough for her, and she always struggled. So often the best ranges come from people who really know what they're talking about, and she knows pale skin, having lived with it, and she's done a really nice range. So it's a good mixture because she has liquid foundations and mineral powder foundations. She also has concealers, and concealers are so hard to find, I think, really good, very, very pale ones. She has the hot poured ones like this, and also the concealer reflector pens. Very, very extremely pale shades. So that's the first good one. The next one I'm going to talk about is Face Atelier. They have a range of foundations for all different skin tones. They have a nice big wide range of shades, and I think that's another thing to mention, is that you're more likely to find the right shade for you from a makeup artist type range, or a range that sells at least 20 or 30 shades of foundation, because you're more likely, obviously, to then have the extremes of dark, light, and all the extremes in between. So Face Atelier have a 0 base. This can go with any of their foundations. I also have this in my kit because I find it works really well with lots of silicone and water type, modern day liquid foundations. So I have this and I mix it not only with the Face Atelier ones, but also with lots of my liquid foundations. And a couple of drops of this will often just turn a foundation into, that's not quite pale enough, instantly transform into one that's absolutely perfect. And that's a great thing to have if you've got very, very pale skin, because you've probably bought so many foundations over the course of time where they look like they're going to be perfect, and then you get them on and in daylight they're a bit too orangey, or they just don't look quite right. So if you've got a drawer somewhere of foundations that you've bought recently that aren't right, something like this is a good investment because you'll be able to use them all up. Another similar concept, and also another great range of colours, is Illamasqua. This is their skin base. This is the palest shade, and then they do a 0, a similar thing, a white that you can add to it. They also do this in their rich foundation as well, which is their more moisturising and their heavier foundation. This one's particularly light. But that's great because, again, you just keep the white one at home, and then whenever you buy the pale ones, you can just add to it. So maybe if you have a little bit more colour in the summer, and then add the white base in the winter. Another similar concept is MAC Face and Body. They do lots, again, a really good range of shades, and the white works really well. I find it only works well with the face and body because the formulation is quite unusual in that it's got a film form, it's very long lasting, and this particular base, the white base, I think only mixes well with face and body. But if you love face and body, then that's the perfect solution. A couple of other good transforming type of products are this concealer. In fact, I haven't got the right one with me, but Suku do a pure white concealer stick, which you can mix with your regular concealer stick or one of the Suki ones. This is the wrong one, but it looks exactly like this, but it's pure white, so it's great for converting pale concealers into perfect shade concealers. Same with Keramas, they have the white mixer for their camouflage cream. So if you have lots of pigmentation or spots, or you have very dark circles under your eyes, which if you are very pale, you often have that bluish darkness under the eyes. So something like this that you can add either to the other Caro Mask concealers or to a concealer that you already have, will just make it instantly transform and fix your skin tone. Okay, so they're the most extreme shades, the pure whites and the very, very pale ones. I'm just going to move slightly warmer now. I'm still going to stay paler than, say, a MAC NW15 or an NC15, so I'm kind of working my way from very, very pale up towards that. Okay, so next one is Bobbi Brown, and this is good for a pinky toned pale skin. It's porcelain. I think I've used that actually recently in a tutorial. Some of the good brands that they're not as pale, obviously, as the ones I meant, there's more specialist brands, but they are quite pale, and these are quite good, more drugstore brands and high street brands. Firstly, Max Factor 100. This is Fair, and this is a shade in their Long Lasting foundation. This is it's actually a lot paler than it looks there. It goes on very, very pinkish white, so it's a good, if you do have that pink undertone. Another sort of cool pink undertone is Infallible, again a long lasting one from L'Oreal. This is called Porcelain, another porcelain. And also one that I like if you're more yellow toned and pale is number 51 by Bourjois. They do 51 across their foundations. This is Healthy Mix, but they also do it in Healthy Mix Serum and their other foundations. It's interesting though, because certain countries, not every country has every shade within a range. So 51, I've been told, is not available in France by one of my viewers who I was talking about it once and using it, and she said, oh, in France it starts at 52, and that does happen. And sometimes you can understand why, because it's just not a popular, there's not a popular skin tone shade, so therefore they're not going to make as much money out of it. And sometimes I just don't really understand why certain shades are just not sold in one country and they're sold in the next. So yeah, 51 in the Bourjois if you're yet more yellow toned. A good neutral one if you're looking for a very sheer tinted moisturiser. I found this to be a nice pale one, and this is the Sheer Skin Tint by Liz Earle, and this is 001 and it's bare. Some of the more expensive high brands that I have in my kit, which I think are good for pale skin tones. Firstly, Burberry 01 and 02 in the foundation, both good ones. 01 a little more neutral, 02 a little more pink. And then with Armani, this is the Lasting Silk, but again it comes in other formulations. It's much paler than it looks here. It looks quite dark here, but it's not at all. This is number 2, and that's a really nice neutral, not too beige, not too pink, not too yellow, just a nice neutral pale shade. Last but not least, Tom Ford. So top end of the market, Traceless Foundation 001 Alabaster. Lovely, neutral, creamy shade with a hint of pink. And also the powder that goes with that. He does a traceless pressed powder, and the 001 Alabaster is a beautiful, very, very pale face powder. So that's it. That's obviously not all of the pale foundations in the world, but they're ones that the ones that came to mind for me that I've used and I've used in my kit, and I think are good. So I really hope that you find your ideal pale skin foundation, because I know a lot of you are struggling, and I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching.